Our second station will be about right side of the heart, which consists of right atrium and right ventricle. Let us start by the right atrium. The right atrium receives the blood from superior part of the body by the superior vena cava. This is the opening of the superior vena cava, and it is a valveless opening. Also receive blood from inferior part of the body by inferior vena cava. Actually, this is the opening of the inferior vena cava. It contains non-functioning valve. Venous drainage from the heart itself is go through the coronary sinus, which is a continuation of the great cardiac vein, and this is the opening of the coronary sinus. Blood from the heart itself drains through the coronary sinus. This is the opening of the coronary sinus, which lies between the entrance of the inferior vena cava. This is the entrance of the inferior vena cava and the right atrioventricular valve. So this is the opening of the coronary sinus. Coronary sinus is the continuation of the great cardiac vein, which drains blood from almost 2/3 of the heart. Now let us talk about the right atrium. The right atrium has two parts, the atrial proper and the right auricle, which is the appendage of the right atrium. From outside, there is a ridge at the wall of the atrium, which is called sulcus terminale. Opposite to the sulcus terminale, from inside, there is a ridge that is called crista terminale. In front of the crista terminale, there is irregular surface wall that contains pectinate muscle. This part is the primitive sinus venosus at the embryological life. And posterior to the crista terminale is the small walled surface, which is the sinus venosus embryologically. At the interatrial septum, there is a whole structure or fossa structure that is called fossa ovale, which is the area of the foramen ovale embryologically. The ridge over the fossa ovale is called annular circulare. Blood from the right atrium go to the right ventricle through the right atrioventricular valve. This is called the tricuspid valve. This is called the tricuspid valve because it contains three cusps: anterior one, septal one, anterior one, septal one, and inferior one. The blood from right atrium go to the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. From the name of the tricuspid valve, it contains three cusps. This is the anterior one, this is the septal one, and this is the inferior one. Those cusps connected to the papillary muscle through chordae tendineae structure. They are called like structure that control the movement of the valve by the papillary muscle. The wall of the ventricle contains trabeculae. Those trabeculated muscles, in fact, are divided into three parts. One of them is the papillary muscle that stabilizes the heart valves. The second one is the moderator band, and the moderator band are the type of muscle that contain the anterior wall of the heart to the septum of the heart with the free middle structure. Their function is to facilitate the impulse conducted from the septum through the anterior wall of the heart. The third type of muscles are primitive ridges, like this, which are functioning like ordinary ventricular muscles. Now the blood from the right ventricle goes to the pulmonary trunk through the infundibulum. This is the infundibulum and this is the pulmonary trunk. Now the pulmonary trunk contains the pulmonary valve. The pulmonary valve has 3 semilunar cusps or structure which are muscle free. Those cusps are parachute-like and they are 2 anterior cusps and 1 posterior cusp. Now the pulmonary valve which guard the pulmonary trunk is the semilunar valve that contains 3 cusp structures. Those cusps are muscle-free and are 2 anterior cusps and 1 posterior cusp.